Do you want to bust your sales quota? Do you want to join the ranks of top 1% high-tech sellers? The Top 1% Sellers Factory podcast gives you the insights and the tools to help you achieve your sales greatness. The podcast features sales and services professionals, leaders, and experts to give you the edge you're looking for. Here's your host, Seddeek.
Wonderful, Leslie. Welcome back. So as I promised our audience, this segment here is going to be a whole lot more on what that sales professional listening to us can do to actually improve, number one, their personal brand and also their communication ability. And I think specifically in an excellent service world, a lot of people now have a lot more at stake because it's no longer selling something that they can hand off to the customer and walk away. Their presence and their executive presence in particular is becoming much more important because it's much longer interaction and engagement with that customer. So let me start off with, why do you do what you do and what makes you so passionate about doing it?
I love doing what I do, Ash, and I'm just excited to share it and to help people get to that next level. What I really enjoy the most is seeing that evolution of someone sort of get to that next level and their excitement of them feeling different, be it confident or more vocal or feeling comfortable in getting in front of a room. I mean, that's typically one of the worst things for people is getting in front of the room and speaking. And I do a lot of facilitation and presenting. So for me, it's normal or it's natural. But I've got a lot of people, especially from an engineering community, that are introverts. And that's pretty darn scary. So how do we help them? Is it putting a mint in your mouth so you don't get cotton mouth? Or do you, have water at the podium? What do you need to feel more confident in certain situations?
Yes.
And we do that going,
Very, very interesting. And as you were talking, I'm thinking, there must have been sort of like a Leslie journey whereby she herself has become that kind of person. And I'd love as you're telling the audience about, some of your key pieces of advice on how they can start being conscious about their personal brand as well as their communication is maybe sort of share your own professional angle as well as also what did Leslie actually have to do to be the kind of communicator and brand that she is today.
Thank you. I think for me, it's also been an evolution. I have a background in high tech and communications, both from analyst relations, PR, and executive communications. So I've been very fortunate and strategic in my path that I've taken in my career. So I've worked for some amazing companies, Oracle, Cisco, VeriSign, just really, marquee companies where I've had the opportunity to really see people work at a certain level and also be a part of some amazing teams. For me, my role that I had at Cisco in working with John Chambers, who was the CEO of Cisco, chairman and CEO, until Chuck Robbins recently stepped in. But I was very fortunate to be around someone who I learned from, but also added to who I was or who I am as an executive communication consultant and strategist. So I'm not only picking up things along the way as I've, taken my journey in my career, but I've been fortunate to surround myself with people, a board of advisors or other executives that I've learned so much from. So it really is about surrounding yourself with people who you learn from, but then also who can give you great feedback. And I think that's a key component of it too.
Makes a lot of sense. And I think, to that point, then if you think about that sales professional, man or woman, and they're really trying to sort of get to the next edge, and we're really talking about top sellers, people who are already bringing in millions of dollars in revenue, but like anybody else, there is another level of performance that they are striving to get to, which is sort of that coveted top 1% seller community. How do you advise them where to start? I mean, definitely there is the piece about working with an expert like yourself, but if they were on their own to maybe pick up a few nuggets, what would you advise them, maybe starting out with personal brand, if you will?
Absolutely. So I think a lot of it has to do with awareness. So as part of a leadership or having executive presence, And that doesn't mean just, me as someone who's presenting in front of an audience or a leader who's presenting or being in a meeting. It's really how you come through and how you come across. Are you listening to people, or are you just pushing your agenda? And what I find in particular with the sales community is that there's a certain level of needing to be prepared. And the one thing that someone told me many years ago, and it's actually from Louis Pasteur, it's a quote, it says, "Chance favors the prepared mind." And really what that means is the more you prepare, the better you are going to, and how much more effective you're going to be in that sales call. And it's not about winging it. It's about being focused. It's about understanding the audience and their business. It's really, what is their business objective? I mean, that's what a salesperson is in there to do. How can you align to their business objectives, prepare and understand to really tailor your message to fit the objective of what you want to do, but obviously meeting your customers' needs. And I think I know the last one really is about focusing on your customer's customer. What are they trying to accomplish? And really, what are they trying to do internally? If their client is an internal constituent, or if it's an external customer, but really you're solving their problem and aligning your solution to their business need or solving their business problems makes you that much more relevant and needed by that client.
Absolutely. And I also know that from your work experience as well, you had this amazing vantage point into boardroom meetings where, again, maybe at Cisco, other companies, you've seen people like John listening to someone who's come in and to pitch them an idea and pitch them on a solution. And one of the challenges for a lot of our top sellers is actually specifically some boardroom conversations where they're trying to convince not just, let's say the CIO or the CFO, but a number of executives on their solution and, the merits of it. And I wonder if you have some nuggets for them specifically for meetings of that type where the attention span is not that long and they need to achieve a specific objective in that meeting.
Absolutely. How many times have you been given, you think you're having 30 minutes for your presentation and you really end up with 10 or 15 because the meeting's running too long, or, something's changed in the agenda for a board meeting in particular. So for someone who's preparing for a board meeting, it's really the fewer slides, the better. Be prepared with your executive summary, the objectives, what you want to ask for and why, and how it will truly benefit the business. I think at the end of the day, people forget to ask for the deal or to close on the sale. Do I have your business? Do I have your commitment? And also making sure that they genuinely meet the needs of the person who's in the room. So who's your audience? Who are you presenting to? Is truly important to be aware of.
Absolutely. And and the point you just made about the fact that they were given 30 minutes and now they have only 10, gets them to really have to think about exactly what the message is and be ready to deliver it, whether it's a 5-minute conversation or a 30-minute conversation.
Absolutely. And I think, about the message, it's not only, especially for a sales team, when you're part of a team and you might be leading them, or you've got an SME, or you've got someone who's, you're an expert in a particular area, or you've got your demo person, it's making sure that the messages you want to convey in the time, 10 minutes or 30 minutes, the time that you have, those people are aware what the end game will be. And at the end of that discussion, or making sure that they also know to put in certain comments or to make certain references about things that are key components that will help the business. So it's making sure that you're not only prepared, but the other people you may have in that meeting with you, be it an expert or a demo person, that they're aware of the key messages that you want to convey. So you're doing a little bit of orchestration, and you're also preparing yourself and the others, but that's how you are so much more successful.
Absolutely.
It translates into getting the permission just to go deeper. Is there budget? Do I have the deal? Does the solution match up with what you're trying to do? And really closing it. And that's your end game here.
Absolutely true. Absolutely true. I'd love to use the remaining maybe 5 or so minutes to look at somebody listening in, they want to work with Leslie or with another executive communications coach. What's that process? What should they expect? Given the fact that we have a global audience, what would you recommend that they do when they go out and try to find the right executive communications consultant to work with? And then also kind of give us a sense of what it's like to sort of reach out to you and what that process would entail.
Sure. So if you're, working with me or you're looking for someone to help coach you or guide you, is really looking at someone who's got experience, they have credibility, they have a client base or they've worked with others in your industry or otherwise. Obviously, there has to be a personal connection. You're going to be divulging things or you're going to be talking about stuff that may not be comfortable, and you want to have confidence in that person that they're not going to laugh or they're not going to think any less, because we're a little fearful sometimes when we start working with someone that, is that person going to judge me? In my case, no judgment. I want to help the client, and that's why I'm very fortunate to have, a great client base and to have people consult with me regularly. I've had people over the years work with me consistently for a few months at a time, and then I had people work with me one-off just to prepare for that special meeting or for that great client meeting or situation where they just need a little bit of a refresher. So in looking for a communications coach or looking for someone, it is finding someone that you click with and get along with, because there are times when we do have to be working over Skype versus in person, or working over FaceTime because we may not be in the same city or same time zone for that matter. I work quite often with people who are in India, so it's early morning for me and late for them or vice versa. But it's making sure that we've got that respect of how we're working together and the things that we need to achieve sometimes in a very short amount of time that we have together.
That's fantastic, Leslie. And before we close, do you have any sort of aha moments that you think people listening in, if you were to share with them maybe one or two, it will make a difference when they start communicating in front of other executives or as they talk to their teams? Maybe the one or two things that they should watch out for, because that's typical, something that might happen during the communication process, and they may not even be aware that it's happening.
Yeah, I think the one point that people have said to me is, I have a voice at the table, or I have a seat at the table, and I've been included in a meeting. And sometimes the confidence that you have as a salesperson or a leader it comes through. I always want to say it comes through in your pores. That sounds kind of funny, but it really does. When you start to change your posture, you change your the way that you're carrying yourself, people really do notice that. And that often comes through in the voice, and it also comes through in the way that you're communicating differently or better. So people want to hear from you or hear more from you. And that's the aha that I have, or that clients come back to me, is I'm included in these meetings. They heard me at the table. I got the deal because I felt comfortable and confident. We prepared or we practiced. And at the end of the day, for me, that's truly rewarding to have someone feel that much more confident getting in front of a room, especially for my introverts, that's not so comfortable, or to, speak more clearly and be heard. That's very rewarding for me.
Yeah, and I think also when you were talking, I think one of the other things that can happen sometimes is that they can really be surprised by what's happening in the meeting. So the ability to really adjust on the fly says that even though they're very good at what they do, they can come with a much more willingness to listen to what the dynamics are and then adapt to those dynamics in the meeting itself.
Exactly. And actually, the one thing that you hit on there, and I may or may not have mentioned, is really being a good listener. And that's with your customer, that's with your sales leaders, that's with the executives that you work with, is listening to what's important. And then it's next about you and communicating how you're solving their problem. But it's so important to be a good listener and to hear the person before you jump in and say, oh, you need to do this or you need to do that. So that's something I practice and teach my clients, is being a better listener.
Wonderful, Leslie. Well, it's been a real pleasure to have you here on the Top 1% Sales Factory podcast. And I definitely look forward to getting all your contacts and making sure that our audience here can reach out to you once they listen or watch this interview, because I think there's just amazing reservoir of talent that you bring to the table, given, of course, the kind of people that you work with and the situation that you've seen. And you can help leaders become better at what they do as they communicate, whether it's one individual or someone who communicates to an organization or even externally to the markets. You've got that experience across the board. Thank you again for being here. I really appreciate you being with us.
Thanks for having me, Ash. It's really been fun. I love talking to you, and I welcome the questions that we get from your listeners and look forward to working with them potentially. So thank you again for having me, and love to be on again whenever you need me.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Leslie.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to the Top 1% Sellers Factory podcast. Give us your suggestions and guest recommendations by emailing us at ash@connectwithash.com. Thank you also for sharing this podcast with your colleagues and social media contacts. To connect with us on LinkedIn, please send a connect request to ash@connectwithash.com. See you at our next episode. Thanks for tuning in.